Welcome to New Breed Music Group LLC and our Music Business Minute. And today's Music Business Minute, we're going to do a two-parter, and this is going to be obtaining permissions on your CD project legally. A lot of people don't understand you have to have certain permissions when you cut songs, especially when you're cutting songs that you yourself did not write. So we just went through this process with one of our clients. The client had 12 songs on the CD, and two of the songs were written and already out on the radio. One was owned by Paul McCartney. The other one was owned by Papa Daily Music out of Texas, and we had to obtain permissions from them. And all of it requires contracts. One thing that we've discussed several times with you is that there are many, many different contracts. In actuality, there's about 8 of them. And the very last one that would be a waiver of royalties for like a nonprofit organization to waive any kind of mechanical or any kind of a performance royalty. So that way, like a church could record a song, if they get a waiver of royalties, then Harry Fox isn't going to collect any of the mechanical royalties. And as far as performance royalties go, any performance rates are automatically sent to the church as a donation. So let's say that you finish your recording and the mix is approved and the album looks great and everything's ready to go and you're ready to press your first batch of CDs or vinyl, so that way you have merch with you to take onto your concerts. Or even if you're printing your songs on thumb drives, a lot of artists now are selling thumb drives instead of CDs, because that brand new cars don't come with CD players in it. So they sell the thumb drives. You plop the thumb drive in and you get the whole album with it. Or if you have like a limited collection of albums that's being done on vinyl. All right, we have a manufacturer that we deal with our record label that actually does vinyl for us. All right. And then someone asks you, did you clear the cover song? Right? Or maybe they pointed out that the photo on your album cover, it actually came from a stock image site. That copyright belongs to somebody else. You have to obtain permission for it. All right. Or maybe a 2-second sample in the introduction of one of the songs actually belongs to another artist. For that 2-second sample, you need a license for it. And these are all of the questions that you have to ask. And suddenly your album isn't just about choosing the stock or deciding how many you're going to press, or it relates to making sure you have permissions to use every creative element that appears on your release. Fortunately, licensing doesn't have to be intimidating. Once you understand the difference between the rights involved and when they apply, you can budget for them just like you did for your studio time or for your mix engineer or mastering engineer and the manufacturing itself. All right, when you come and you're releasing a full-length CD or EP or a limited run vinyl, here's the things that you're going to need to know about, right? One is understanding the different types of musical licenses. Not every physical release is going to require the same licenses as albums entirely with original songs written by you as the artist, right? Or commissioned artwork has a different legal requirement than one includes, such as a cover song or a song that's written by somebody else. I do several artists inside the studio that gets their songs from different songwriters in Nashville, and I have to go and get all the information from the writers for the publishers and everything, and make sure that we log everything as far as BMI or ASCAP or CSAC numbers or whatever inside it, and make sure that all the publishers and the writers are actually paid for their mechanical royalties. Now, the mechanicals are for print alone, all right? Digital mechanicals, and we'll get into that in a minute, but digital mechanicals still exist. If you do a digital download, there's still a mechanical royalty that's paid out. Okay, so we'll get into mechanicals right here so that you understand what a mechanical really is. All right, the mechanical royalties begin with the introduction of a player piano roll and the 1909 Copyright Act, which required companies to pay songwriters. So how this evolved is new technology in the late 1800s and 1900s. Player pianos used perforated paper rolls to play music automatically without any human musicians involved. So there used to be a couple of ways that they could do it. You had somebody sitting there at the piano. We had one when I was a kid in Brooklyn, and you would take and you would push on the pedals of the piano, and the roll would scroll through, right? And as the roll scrolled through, it went over a specific type of head that actually triggered the keys on the piano, the hammers on the piano, and the keys went down and looked like a ghost was playing the piano. The other way was some of them had a crank on it, and you would crank this up, and that crank would wind up a spring, which would allow the roll to go by itself. All right. And then when they came out with these things, there was no payout to the publishers or the songwriters. And the publishers and songwriters realized that they weren't getting any kind of a royalty or any kind of payment for their work at all. And they're the ones that own the material. And these print companies were making these rolls and selling them, and they weren't sharing with the profit to the publisher or the writer. So in 1909, Congress passed the Copyright Act that fixed that problem. And they also created a law that's called a compulsory license, which means anyone could record or reproduce a copyrighted song as long as they paid a set fee to the songwriter. All right. So the initial rate originally in 1909 was set at a fixed rate of 2 cents per piano roll. And then later came vinyl, and then after vinyl came the 8-track and the cassette and then the CD. And now we're down to thumb drives and digital downloads. All right, so from physical to digital, as the technology changed from vinyl to cassette to downloads and streaming, the concept of mechanical reproduction stays the same. Modern collection today, digital services like Spotify and Apple Music pay a mechanical royalty through an organization like the Mechanical Licensing Collective, the MLC. So mechanical licenses are probably the most common license that any independent artist is going to encounter. And when the mechanical manufacturer physically releases, if you record a cover song or plan to distribute it on CDs, vinyl, or cassette, or whatever your medium is, you typically need the mechanical license from the copyright owner or the publisher of the composition. In the United States, mechanical royalties for many cover songs are based on a statutory rate by law, making them relatively straightforward to calculate. Thinking of the mechanical license as permissions to reproduce and distribute someone else's song in your recording. Now, this also goes if you didn't write the song and the writer happens to be a friend of yours, and he says, yeah, go ahead and record the song, you still need to pay him a mechanical if he owns the publishing, or you can go to the whoever his publisher is and work it out with them and do negotiations with it. All right. Unlike sample clearances, obtaining mechanical license is a predictable process. Anyone can apply for the right to record a cover song, and permission is automatically and instantly granted every time under U.S. copyright law and all the frameworks like the Music Modernization Act, all right, which improved access to licensing systems. You can use a company like EasySong to easily acquire a mechanical license that you need, or you can go through Harry Fox Agency, which is the largest in the world for mechanicals, right? And this will calculate the fees that you need to pay, saving you from tracking down the publisher yourself. All right, as you get somebody that's professionally inclined to be able to do this. This is what they do for a living. All right, when do you need a mechanical? If you recorded your own version of someone else's copyrighted song and plan to distribute the physical copies, you need a mechanical license. There's exceptions for the songs, and those are songs that are within public domain. A song from the time that it's writing through 95 years, all right, you need a mechanical license. Once it reaches that 96th year, all right, then the mechanical license goes into something that's null and void, and the song itself becomes a public domain. So musical works published in 1931 enter the public domain under January 1st of 2027, which is the 96th year. All right. Any song published after 1930, you need a mechanical license for this year here. All right. So, or even digital downloads work the same. The mechanical license is not a performance right. It's a physical reproduction of the song. All right. There's one important limitation. The standard mechanical license allows you to create your own recording of an existing song, but it does not give you permission to substantially rewrite the lyrics or fundamentally change the composition. If you create a parody, translating the lyrics or otherwise producing a derivative work, you likely need a direct approval from the copyright holder. Okay. Now, this is something that we actually did with this last recording with the band. They took a song that was owned by Paul McCartney and rewrote the lyrics to it. So we had to get permission. I had to go to the office people here at New Breed Music Group and say, I need you to contact PML, right? What is it? MPL. It's McCartney Productions Limited. I need you to copy their office and find out for sure if we can get permission to be able to do this parody and make sure that we get it in writing in an email and everything. And that way we're eligible for the release of the song. So the mechanical royalties are typically calculated on a per copy basis. This means that the licensing cost increases as you make more copies. Pressing 300 copies is definitely going to be cheaper than pressing 3,000 based on the number of copies manufactured, not necessarily the number sold. All right, if you press 1,000 records and you owe royalties for 1,000 copies, all right, even if only half of them are still sitting in your garage 6 months later, all right, you're going to pay that mechanical royalty at the time of pressing. All right, that's very important to understand with mechanicals. All right, if you do not pay the mechanical, then you're putting yourself in a position that you can have a lawsuit placed against you, and you don't want to do that. All right, so statutory versus negotiated rates. Many cover songs qualify for a statutory mechanical royalty established under the U.S. copyright law. These rates are reviewed periodically, so it's always worth confirming what the current rate is before calculating your costs. Some situations involve negotiated rates instead, particularly for the unusual project licensing obtained directly from the publishers. International releases may also follow different rules depending on whether the records will be distributed or not. It doesn't matter if they're distributed or not. Calculating your licensing costs. All right, there's a simple way of doing it. Say you're pressing 500 CDs, that includes one cover song. Your total mechanical royalty obligation will equal the applicable royalty rate. Currently it's 13.1 cents for that song. All right, and that's a song under 5 minutes in length multiplied by the number of copies. So you're going to multiply that 13.1 cents times 500, and that's going to be what your mechanical rate is for that particular song. All right, now licensing services can simplify your process. If your first physical release, you don't have to navigate licensing alone. All right, several licensing agencies specialize in mechanical licensing while they calculate the royalties and making sure everything's in order before manufacturing begins. All right, while they charge a service fee, they can save independent artists significant time, and they also help you prevent costly mistakes. All right. So once your cover songs are properly licensed, you can turn your attention to one of the trickiest areas of music license, and that is like sample clearancing and so forth. You want to see like Easy Song Licensing or Harry Fox Agency for more details on that. A master use license. Let's say you go and you're going to do a cover song, all right? But you're going to do the cover song with the original tracks, all right? Or even a partial part of the original tracks. It could be just the drum sample at the introduction. Then you need a master license, and the master license would come from the record label that owns the copyright on the work that you're performing. All right, so if you're doing Long Train Running with the Doobie Brothers and you're going to use their original tracks, you need to go to the original record label that recorded that song and get yourself a master license from that label. All right, now the master use versus a publishing permission, one reason for sampling becomes expensive is because you're often dealing with two separate right holders. First, you need permission from whoever holds the master recording, which is usually the record label. Second, you need permission from who owns the underlying composition. So you've got to have a mechanical, right? And then you have to have a master position just for that one specific song, all right? Typically, the songwriter or the music publisher has the rights for the composition. All right. If either one says no, then legally you cannot use that sample under any circumstance. All right. Artwork. Artwork is definitely under copyright. Every picture that we do, several album covers here, and every picture that we take is copywritten by New Breed Music Group. And so therefore, if we do the album cover, we get a royalty on it, and there has to be a photo by on all the pictures, photo by New Breed Music Group or copyrighted New Breed Music Group for the pictures. This goes with anything you use. If you pull a picture off of a website and you're going to utilize that picture on your album, then you need to contact who owns that picture and pay the royalty out for that album. Trademarks and logos, you need to do the same thing if you're using any trademarks or logos that belongs to it. If you're licensing samples, all right, if you utilize samples, this is why New Breed Music Group does not utilize any samples whatsoever in the studio. We do 100% live tracking, period. All right, and the reason is because we don't have to go and license samples. So let's say if you're a rap artist and you're using samples or beats from somebody, you need to find out who owns the beats. And if you use several of them, 4 or 5 different ones, you need to find out the owners of those 4 or 5 different ones. And you'll probably pay more for what the center attraction is of your song than you will for the sidebar attractions. Okay, so the rights holders on samples, they can simply refuse altogether, and that's why many independent artists think carefully before building a song around a sample that they didn't create themselves. All right. When sample clearance is required, sampling means incorporating part of an existing recording into your own music. All right, it could be a drum break or a vocal verse. Right, it could be a guitar riff or even split-second sound effects. There are some people that turn around and even though they're not using AI like Suni or something on their songs, they're opening up their DAW and they're putting in a MIDI thing, and then they're utilizing, you can actually grab samples of guitar playing and put it all together and create a song. If you're using it that way, you did not write the song. Whoever wrote that sample owns the rights of the composition, all right? And by that, meaning you might be the lyric writer. So when you copyright, all you can copyright is the lyric. You cannot copyright the composition. The composition owns to whoever owns the sample, okay? And then, all right, unfortunately, that's not how copyright works, that you just get to keep it. All right, there's no universally accepted 5-second roll or even a 2-second roll. If the sample is recognizable, it is protected by copyright. Under no circumstance are you allowed to record that without clearance from the owner of the sample. That's as much as we can say for today. This is going to be a 2-part. We'll do the second part tomorrow. Thank you very much for paying attention and sticking with New Breed Music Group, LLC. Everybody have yourself a beautiful day.